I shudder to think at how many times a day I look at my phone. When my phone is in another room, it feels as if my arm has been severed, and it's just, I find myself physiologically beckoned by the phone. I've been known, and I'm ashamed to admit it, to sleep with my phone. And there's that experience where the phone buzzes in the middle of the night. And this is so much a part of modern life, where you find yourself trapped in that endless scroll, and the hours simply fade away. It's not an accident that this happens. These technologies have been reversed engineered in order to steal your attention. These technologies have been created in the same sort of way that a bag of Doritos was created. That 50 years ago, we had this advent of processed foods and television dinners, and they seemed so incredible in the moment. And then we woke up 50 years later, and we realized that for all the convenience that we got from these foods, they'd been reversed engineered to make us fat, and they'd addicted us, and they disrupted the entire process of creating agriculture, the distribution of food. And so I set out to study Silicon Valley in an outsider sort of way. I'd had an insider sort of experience with Silicon Valley in that when I was editing the New Republic magazine, my boss had been Mark Zuckerberg's roommate in college, Facebook employee number 3. And he was 28 years old when I first met him and worth $700 million. You hate him already. In a very short period of time, we had to transform a little magazine that had been committed to policy ideas, to high seriousness in a very old-fashioned sort of way, writings about high culture. And in a very short span of time, we had to reinvent ourselves as a magazine that would flourish on Facebook. Facebook is a giant feedback loop. Facebook takes data. Data is everywhere you've traveled on the internet. It's everything that you've read. It's everything that you've consumed. It's your friends. And it adds up to a fairly comprehensive picture of the inside of your brain. And so Facebook leverages this information that they have about you, which is in some ways more information than you have about yourself. They reverse engineer your news feed in order to get as much of your engagement as possible, in order to get as much of your attention as possible. And so Facebook knows your pleasure points and your anxieties, and the information in Facebook is not randomly splayed across a page. It's a feed. It's fed to you in a way where it's organized in order to keep you involved as much as possible. And in politics, we've seen the ways in which this is just atrocious for our democracy, because it's very dangerous to be fed political information that plays to the anxieties that they know will keep you coming back for more. Facebook, it's a filter bubble that Facebook's algorithms carefully nurture. And so at the New Republic, we had to go through this compressed period of media history where we had to rush to embrace the ethos of Facebook. Because if you want revenue in media, you need traffic. And if you want traffic, you need to create things that will flourish on Facebook. The logic is that you leverage as much data as you have about your readers or about users, about what's worked in the past, in order to try to latch yourself onto the thing that's trending. And you have various tools that help you chart your way to popularity. There's one set of tools that that almost every journalist uses, at least in the United States, called Chartbeat. If you go into the newsroom of, say, the Washington Post, there are screens that hover over the newsroom that show what pieces are popular at any given moment. And I had on my phone this flickering chart, and so I could see at any moment how popular my pieces were. And I would wake up in the morning, and I would take out my phone, and I would immediately go to Chartbeat to see if people were liking us. And then I would check it again when I was getting coffee a few minutes later, and so on during the day. This was a sea change for me in my life, that suddenly my mind was thinking in a different sort of way. I was looking, as opposed to looking for the counter-conventional wisdom thing, I was looking to repeat the formula that had worked in the past, because I needed to win for financial reasons, and as a human being, it was human nature to try to want to win in that sort of way. Whereas before, we had published articles that very intentionally, very self-consciously, we were publishing articles that we knew our readers wouldn't like because they were published from the left, or they were published from the right, or they were published from the center, or maybe they were just liberal positions that were aiming to skewer some sort of sacred cow. And instead, I found myself gravitating in the direction of trying to provide readers with exactly what they wanted. We ended up producing an echo chamber, an amen corner. In politics, this is extremely dangerous because it diminishes the quality of conversation, and we can see with Facebook the way in which it's diminished the quality of information that citizens need in order to make the very important decisions that we entrust them with. But what's at stake in this debate is so great. The reason I call it existential is because the very qualities that define us as human beings could disappear in this transformation. So rather than simply accept that as our fate as a species, I think it's important that we subject these companies to the toughest questions, that we try to create an architecture for the human future that protects the things that we deem to be important.